Hey there, soccer freaks. This is ATL On Fire, the podcast where we talk all things Atlanta United Football Club. So sit back, buckle up, enjoy.
It was actually Lille who won the title.
That's right.
Even, I wouldn't say going away, but they won, with a game to play, whatever it was in hand. And
there's a Brazilian player on that team.
There was a Brazilian player on the team.
Yeah.
You want to tell us about him?
I don't know a whole lot about him, to be honest, other than probably what everybody else has done and YouTubed him. And what is it, Luiz Araujo?
I don't know how you pronounce it. Araujo, I think.
Araujo. Let's go with Araujo. I like that. Okay. I think that feels right. In my
Luiz Araujo.
I was going to say my Spanish, but I guess technically it's Portuguese.
Right. It is Brazilian.
Yeah. But I think he's a inverted winger, which you don't love, but he is a guy that clearly has a little bit of that paciness that I saw in the YouTube videos. Seems like he's got a little bit more of a nose for goal from some of the highlights I saw. Maybe has that long range shot that he can take, but just I think I just like the style of what I was seeing in some of the highlights. I felt like even when I watched PT Martinez highlights at River Plate before he came, I don't know. There's something you can glean, I think, from watching some YouTube highlights, and I felt like he's a guy that's coming off a championship at Lille only 3 months ago. So he's coming from a pedigree of winning. It's always good to bring that type of energy to a club that's trying to get back to that. And I think he very much complements, some of the players around him. So it's going to be interesting to see.
And I'm forgetting, maybe was it Lille who was coached previously by Bielsa, and that's what he brought him to there?
Ooh, I don't know.
I think maybe that's true. We can look that up. But, I have to say, this is, we're going to talk about a coach or whatever, but this is the biggest news in MLS in a very long time, because, dear podcast listeners, please tweet at us if you know any different, but I don't think there's ever been a player who was starting for a major league Champions League team. He's giving up the Champions League, people, to come to MLS in his prime. Now, there have been players who have done it, at 32, 35, whatever. He's 26.
Yeah, 25 or 26.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I that kind of dawned on me a little late too. I was like, wow, has there ever been, a player that's come from one of these European leagues at 25 years old? And I don't think that's happened.
Joseph came, at around that age, and he was playing in Serie A, but he wasn't playing by any means in the Champions League. Torino was nowhere close to the Champions League when he left Serie A, right? So there have been some decent players to come from Europe who were, obviously even Carlos Vela was still sort of in his prime when he came to LA, and he came from La Liga and played for a very good team, but he wasn't a Champions League player. Because everybody wants to get to a Champions League team, so hats off to Bocanegra and Eels. How in the world they convinced a player to leave the Champions League to come to MLS?
Because there was a lot of uncertainty that week, man. It was silly season to the nth degree as far as the Boca out tweets that were happening, because evidently we had gone and actually wired money to a Brazilian club, Grêmio, right, to grab this guy Ferreira or something like that. Am I getting that name right?
Yeah.
And at the end of it, supposedly the player changed his mind.
He's
or
like,
something.
no, I don't want to come.
No, it was something. Yeah, it was something weird.
Because the other one was Thiago, this young kid Thiago, is it Almada?
Almada. So that's supposedly still happening.
On, right?
Couldn't get his visa in shape to impact our team.
And he's year. Argentinian.
He's an Argentinian. It sounds like they still are in agreement to what the terms would be come 2022. There's a lot of time between now and then, so you never know.
Yeah.
But it sounds to me like the only way that's going to happen is if you see Barco go or somebody else.
And he's 19.
Right.
Or so something like that.
By then, like, Barco is going to be 22.
So that's crazy, right? Yeah. And people are saying that he's like the top prospect in all of South America, and that he actually was objecting because he really, really wanted to go straight to Europe. He didn't want to go through MLS, but that maybe he reluctantly agreed because, we're going to give him a lot of money in a couple of years, profile bet.
So if Boca Negra had to do with this new Lille player, the Luiz Araujo. Araujo, thank you. And if in fact we can lock down Thiago Almada when the new year comes around, I think people might be changing their tune, because here's the thing, like, we're midway through the season, and that'll get us, we'll get into the recap, but this guy could be the level of positivity and energy that can right the ship. Thank you for the pour. Beautiful.
Now, what do you think, right? So he played as an inverted winger at Lille.
I think he came on as a sub a lot, I think, from what I understand, though. I don't know if
the statistics were sort of, he wasn't an automatic starter, but he started over half of the matches, and he played almost every single match. So he was a starter 50%, 60% of the time, and he was off the bench the other 40% of the time. So that's a major player for that club.
Yeah.
He started, I think, over half the matches.
Right, and a winning team.
A Champions League team. But he played as an inverted winger, and I have to say... hold
on, let's pause for a second. Can you explain, I think we have in previous podcasts, what an inverted winger is?
Yeah. So an inverted winger is a left footer who plays on the right side, or a right footer who plays on the left side. And it's called inverted because if you have a dominant foot, you have a tendency to go that way. So if you're a left footer like he is playing on the right side, you have a tendency to cut inside towards the middle of the field. And some coaches feel that that's an advantage because a player who's, especially if you play a very aggressive winger who's up top, they can cut in and actually are a threat to shoot. Yeah. And then once they become a threat to shoot, people have to step up, and then they can also create. The difficulty with an inverted winger is that an inverted winger inherently is going to crowd the space, right? Because if you have a natural, tendency to come inside, when you come inside, there are more players in the middle of the field, right? So when you're trying to open up the field, attacking soccer, as we've talked about on the podcast before, is about space and movement, right? So the more you can space out the field, the more you have more room to go at players. So, if you can beat a guy every time, that's great. But if you're consistently beating a guy to the inside, there tends to be another defender there. If you beat a guy to the outside, nobody's helped out there, and then you're free to go. Plus, if you can beat a guy to the outside, somebody from the middle has to come all the way out to address that, and then wherever that space they left, that's a gap.
Okay, so this has been a big discussion. What is our formation, or what is his fit when we've got Joseph, Moreno, and Barco already kind of up in that space? Moreno is kind of on the, at least of late, right? He's kind of been playing that up on the left attacking side where he's cutting it back. And kind of in that space a little bit.
Yeah, he's sort of an attacking midfielder in the gap between, the midfield and the forward, kind of in that pocket. But he's not an out-and-out winger. You haven't seen Barco or Moreno really out on the side. An out-and-out winger would classically play, along the touchline, so to speak. And the reason why you have an out-and-out winger, because if you have an out-and-out winger who can play out there, and if they can take on the guy and beat the guy, then it just opens up the game because everybody has to shift. Right.
So is this like, what does this mean for like Bello being able to take that space, or a Mulroney who's kind of been speedy up the left side?
Well, yeah. So this is the thing, right? So most of the coaches who are playing a quote unquote inverted winger, they want, a left footer player on the right who cuts inside, and the expectation is that there's a wing back who's going to overlap, who's going to take that space. And so if you have a guy cutting inside while the wing back is taking that space, now the defenders have to choose, right? They either come inside with you and leave the wing back wide open, or they stay at home and.
But do you think they're going to play him as an inverted winger? So that would mean he'd be on the right side, right? He's left-footed.
And that's what doesn't make sense to me, because no, I don't think so. Because if you look at our team, I think Barco and Moreno have both showed that their best spot is sort of behind the striker in the gap. They're really good at that, running at places, getting defenders to come step up to them. And we'll talk about the games, but that's how we scored a lot of the goals in the last two games. They're not outside wingers. They're not playing along the touchline. The two guys who we have who do play along the touchline and who like to take on players and deliver crosses are Brooks Lennon and Jürgen Damm. Both of them are right-footed. Both of them play on the right side. And they really open up the game when they do that. Yeah. If they're opening up the game, if you have guys like Barco and Moreno in the middle who can really run with the ball, and they both can, right? Then you want someone to really, really open it up outside, because now the defenders are like, do I go outside? Do I stay inside? If you can't come and double team Moreno and Barco running through the middle, you're in big trouble. So it seems like one of the two, Damm or Lennon, would be the right winger. And the natural thing is to have a left winger. If you have really good wingers on both sides and you have Moreno and Barco, forget about it. Yeah. The defenders have no option. Yeah. So I think that he's being signed not as an inverted winger, even though he's traditionally played as an inverted winger, but an out-and-out winger on the left side. Because if he can open up the space on the left side, now you have Moreno, Barco, and Joseph Martinez operating where they can't come in and double team him, because you have to respect the outside and forget it.